Welcome to my channel. Value Old Coins Today videos is one you won't miss. We're diving into the world of coins, so let's get it started. The 1989p Jefferson Nickel is part of the long-running Jefferson Nickel series, which began in 1938 and continued, essentially unchanged on the reverse, until 2003. This coin, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, represents one of the later issues of the classic Felix Schlag design before the U.S. Mint embarked on the Westward Journey series in the early 2000s and eventually updated the Jefferson portrait in 2006. By 1989, the Jefferson Nickel had already been in circulation for over 50 years, making it a familiar and almost taken for granted part of American pocket change. Yet, despite its ubiquity, each year and mint carries its own story and nuances, and the 1989p nickel is no exception, standing at the crossroads of late 20th century coinage history. The obverse front design of the 1989p nickel features a left-facing bust of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson's likeness dominates the obverse, his face occupying much of the central field. His hair is styled back and tied in a queue, with engraved curls visible in sharper strikes. His eye, brow line, and jawline stand out most strongly in higher mint state specimens, while in circulation-worn coins these features often flatten from repeated handling. Above his forehead, along the upper rim, appears the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the left of his face, following the curve of the rim, appears the word "Liberty," inscribed in a cursive script that has a distinctive flow compared to the block lettering of other inscriptions. Immediately following Liberty is a small 5-point star, and next to it, the date 1989. For this Philadelphia issue, the P Mint mark is also positioned here beside the year, a practice that had only become standard since 1980. Before that, Philadelphia coins generally bore no mint mark. The placement of the mint mark beside the date makes the obverse instantly recognizable as a Philadelphia issue, differentiating it from a Denver, D, and San Francisco, S, strikes of the same year. Turning to the reverse back, we find Schlag's enduring depiction of Monticello, Jefferson's stately home in Virginia. This neoclassical building, which Jefferson himself designed and refined over many years, appears in a frontal elevation view, with its colonnaded portico, triangular pediment, and iconic central dome. Monticello was not only Jefferson's residence but also a working plantation and a symbol of his architectural genius, reflecting Enlightenment ideals of symmetry and balance. Above the image, near the rim, runs the inscription E Pluribus Unum, Latin for out of many, one, a motto deeply tied to the concept of American unity. Beneath Monticello is the estate's name, Monticello, printed in capital block letters. Just below that, the denomination is stated as 5 cents, and along the bottom rim is a national identifier, United States of America. The arrangement of inscriptions is symmetrical and stately, complementing the balanced architecture of Monticello itself. On weak strikes, common for some Philadelphia issues, the steps leading to the building may appear blurred or flat, but in well-struck or high-grade examples, the lines of the dome, the doorway, and especially the staircase stand out in crisp detail. From a technical perspective, the 1989p Jefferson Nickel follows the standard specifications of its series. It is struck in a copper-nickel alloy consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. The coin weighs 5.00 grams, has a diameter of 21.21 millimeters, and a thickness of approximately 1.95 millimeters. Its edge is plain, smooth, without reeds, a characteristic that has remained consistent for nickels since their introduction in 1866. The alloy composition gives the coin a silvery gray color that can take on golden or bluish tones as it tones naturally over time. Uncirculated examples often show vibrant luster that reflects light in a cartwheel effect across the fields, while heavily circulated ones dull to a matte gray and exhibit rim nicks, scratches, or wear across Jefferson's cheek and hair. When it comes to mintage figures, the Philadelphia Mint produced an enormous number of nickels in 1989, exceeding 1.15 billion pieces. This huge output means that the 1989p nickel is very common in circulation and readily available to collectors in circulated grades. Its abundance ensures that most examples hold only face value unless preserved in unusually high condition. However, within this flood of coins, certain qualities set individual pieces apart. The most sought after are those graded in high mint state, MS65 and above, particularly if they exhibit full steps, FS, on the reverse. A full steps designation, awarded by grading services like PCGS and NGC, indicates that all 6 steps leading up to Monticello are fully visible and separated, without blending from strike weakness. Because Philadelphia nickels of this era often show soft strikes, full steps examples are scarce, and for the 1989p issue, such coins command a significant premium over ordinary mint state pieces. In a broader historical context, the 1989p nickel falls within the later years of the traditional Jefferson nickel design, a time when U.S. coinage was beginning to shift toward commemoratives and design changes in other denominations. The Lincoln cent had already seen modifications in the 1980s, and the quarter was on the verge of its radical transformation with the launch of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. The nickel, by contrast, remained stable in design until 2004. Thus, the 1989p coin can be seen as one of the steady issues of its time, quietly circulating in vast quantities through the U.S. economy at the close of the decade. It also reflects the minting technology of its day, mass production on high-speed presses, which sometimes sacrifice strike sharpness in favor of sheer volume. For everyday Americans, these coins clinked in pockets, filled coin jars, and moved through vending machines without much notice, yet they carried Jefferson's image in his home Monticello into nearly every transaction. In terms of collectability and value, most circulated 1989p nickels are worth only their face value of 5 cents. In higher uncirculated grades, particularly MS64 and MS65, they may bring a modest premium, usually in a range of few dollars. However, coins graded MS66 or MS67 are far scarcer and can attract greater interest from registry set collectors. The full steps designation is the real key. A 1989p Jefferson nickel with full steps can be significantly more valuable, sometimes ranging from tens to even hundreds of dollars depending on grade and certification. Proof coins were not struck in Philadelphia that year, as proofs came from the San Francisco Mint. But the Philadelphia issues are the workhorses of circulation, and thus bear the marks of their role in commerce. For collectors who specialize in building complete Jefferson nickel sets, the 1989p is essential as a representative of its year and mint, even if it is common in lower grades. The aesthetic qualities of the 1989p nickel also deserve mention. While its design was long criticized for being somewhat plain compared to other denominations, the Jefferson nickel's understated elegance lies in its balance and symbolism. Jefferson's profile speaks to his intellectual legacy. The 1999D Jefferson nickel represents one of the final years of the classic Jefferson nickel design, before the United States Mint began introducing major changes to the reverse in 2004 as part of the Westward Journey nickel series. The coin was struck at the Denver Mint, indicated by the bold D mint mark placed to the right of the Monticello image on the reverse. Like other nickels of the modern era, this coin carries a face value of 5 cents, but its numismatic value varies depending on condition, minting quality, strike sharpness, and whether it has been preserved in uncirculated or proof-like states. Millions were produced, as nickels in circulation are a cornerstone of U.S. commerce. The obverse and reverse design for this coin had already been in continuous use for over 60 years, designed originally in 1938 by Felix Schlag, whose artistic rendering of President Thomas Jefferson's portrait in Monticello, Jefferson's historic Virginia estate, became one of the most iconic designs in American coinage. On the obverse front side, the coin prominently features a left-facing profile portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, principal author of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the nation's most influential founding fathers. Above his forehead, hugging the rim of the coin, is the national motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that not only holds deep national resonance but also symbolizes American values of faith and providence. Along the left-hand edge, directly in front of Jefferson's face, appears the word liberty, written in a cursive-style script that distinguishes it from the block letter inscriptions elsewhere on the coin. Following the word liberty, separated by a small star, is the date 1999. The placement of the year adjacent to Jefferson's chin makes it immediately visible. While the Philadelphia Mint's coins bore no mint mark, this particular coin from the Denver Mint would carry a small D mint mark that designates its place of origin. The detail in Jefferson's portrait, especially in uncirculated examples, highlights his hair tied at the back, his formal jacket collar, and the serious expression on his face, reflecting Schlag's effort to capture Jefferson as both a statesman and visionary leader. Turning to the reverse, back, side, the focal point is Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate near Charlottesville, which he designed and lived in for much of his life. The architectural design is shown from the front elevation, with its distinctive dome and neoclassical columns, giving a sense of Jefferson's appreciation for balance, symmetry, and Enlightenment-inspired architecture. Above Monticello, centered along the upper rim, appears a traditional Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, out of many, one, which speaks to the unity of the American states into a single nation. Beneath the detailed depiction of Monticello is the name itself, Monticello, written in clear block letters to identify the structure. Below this, the denomination is spelled out as 5 cents, and along the bottom rim runs a proud inscription, United States of America. The overall arrangement of inscriptions reflects a balance that was carefully chosen when the design was approved in 1938. Though Monticello's steps, windows, and columns sometimes appear weakly struck on circulation coins due to striking pressure issues, higher-grade examples reveal intricate detail, including the central doorway and lines of the portico. The physical composition of the 1999D nickel is a standard modern nickel alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a silver-gray appearance with a faint golden hue as it tones over time. The coin weighs 5.00 grams, has a diameter of 21.21 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.95 millimeters. Unlike dimes, quarters, and half dollars, the edge of the Jefferson nickel is plain, smooth, without reading. These physical specifications have remained unchanged since 1866, when the shield nickel was first introduced, making the Jefferson nickel part of a long and consistent lineage of American 5-cent pieces. The durability of the copper-nickel alloy allows these coins to remain in circulation for decades, with many 1999 issues still commonly found in change today, though well-circulated examples often show heavy wear across Jefferson's cheek and Monticello steps. In terms of mintage numbers, the Denver Mint produced a very high volume of 1999 nickels, totaling over 1.2 billion coins. This immense output ensured that the coin was widely available in commerce, and as a result, most surviving pieces are common in circulated grades. However, collectors often seek out well-struck uncirculated examples, or those certified at higher mint state levels, MS-65 and above. At these higher grades, the luster of the coin becomes more pronounced, with cartwheel-like reflections across the fields, and Jefferson's hair detail as well as Monticello's steps become sharper. A key area that specialists examine is a full steps designation on Monticello, which requires that all 6 steps leading up to building are fully struck and separated. Because of striking inconsistencies, full-step nickels are considerably scarcer, and 1999D full-step nickels can command significant premiums in the collector market. Historically, the 1999D nickel belongs to the closing chapter of the uninterrupted Jefferson Nickel series, 1938 to 2003, that retained Felix Schlag's original reverse. Within just 5 years, beginning in 2004, the U.S. Mint would issue new reverses commemorating the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and by 2006 a completely new forward-facing Jefferson obverse and a refined Monticello reverse would debut. Thus, the 1999D nickel can be seen as part of the final generation of the classic Jefferson nickels that Americans had used for most of the 20th century. For many collectors, coins from the late 1990s evoke nostalgia, as they circulated heavily during a time of strong economic growth and technological transformation in the United States. The coin not only served as an everyday medium of exchange, but also as a quiet reminder of Jefferson's legacy in American history, standing as both currency and miniature memorial. In summary, the 1999D Jefferson nickel is a common yet historically important piece of modern American coinage. It represents a continuation of Felix Schlag's beloved design, honoring Jefferson and Monticello, while embodying the values expressed in inscriptions such as "In God We Trust" and "E Pluribus Unum." Although most examples remain plentiful in circulation, collectors appreciate the coin for its place within the broader Jefferson Nickel series, and high-grade or full-step varieties hold particular numismatic significance. Its composition, design, and massive mintage make an easily accessible coin for both new and experienced collectors, bridging the gap between everyday change and the deeper history of American coinage. The 1994 D Jefferson Nickel is one of the later 20th century issues in the long-running Jefferson Nickel series, a design that had already been in circulation for over half a century by the time this particular coin was minted. It was struck at the Denver Mint, indicated by the small D mint mark placed to the right of the date on the obverse. As with other nickels of the period, the coin carries a face value of 5 cents, but its numismatic value depends on condition, rarity of strike quality, and special varieties such as those with the coveted full steps designation. While at first glance the 1994 D may appear to be just another everyday nickel, beneath its familiar design lies a fascinating story of historical continuity, artistic design, and the technical realities of mass coin production in the 1990s. On the obverse front of the coin, we see the familiar left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, founding father, principal author of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the most influential political thinkers of early America. The design of Jefferson's portrait was first created by sculptor Felix Schlag in 1938, and although slightly modified over time, the general composition remained unchanged for decades. Jefferson is shown in a dignified profile, his gaze extending toward the coin's left rim. His hair, tied back with a ribbon, falls in neat curls, and his collar is rendered in a formal neoclassical style. Around the outer edges of the obverse, inscriptions frame Jefferson's portrait. At the top left, arching along the rim, appears the national motto "In God We Trust." To the left of Jefferson's face, following the curvature of the rim, is the word "Liberty," inscribed in a cursive script unique to this coin type. Following Liberty is a small 5-point star, and next to it, the date 1994. To the right of the date is a critical D mint mark, which indicates that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado. Together, these inscriptions, paired with Jefferson's portrait, balance tradition, national ideals, and the commemoration of one of America's greatest leaders. The reverse back of the coin is equally iconic, featuring a finely detailed rendition of Monticello, Jefferson's famed Virginia estate near Charlottesville. Monticello is depicted from the front, with its symmetrical portico, tall columns, triangular pediment, and signature dome rising above the central structure. Designed in the neoclassical style by Jefferson himself, Monticello symbolizes both his personal genius and his embrace of Enlightenment architecture. The coin's reverse complement the building's balance and symmetry. At the top, running along the rim, is a Latin motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one, a phrase that reflects the unity of the states forming one nation. Beneath Monticello is the estate's name, Monticello, spelled in block capitals. Directly below it, the coin states its denomination, 5 cents. Finally, circling the bottom rim is the inscription United States of America. These inscriptions are neatly arranged to avoid crowding the design, and in well-struck examples, the details of Monticello, including the doorway, windows, and especially the staircase, can be clearly seen. On weaker strikes, which are common for Denver issues of this period, Monticello's steps may appear flat or indistinct, a characteristic that becomes important when assessing collectible value. The physical composition and specifications of the 1994 D nickel follow the long-established standard for U.S. 5-cent pieces of the modern era. It is made from a copper-nickel alloy consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a silvery white color that can develop golden, gray, or even bluish tones as the coin ages and tones naturally. The coin has a weight of 5.00 grams, a diameter of 21.21 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.95 millimeters. Unlike dimes, quarters, and half dollars, which have reeded edges, the nickel has a plain edge, smooth to the touch. These specifications have remained constant since the Jefferson Nickel's debut in 1938, offering a sense of stability and tradition in American coinage. Circulated examples of the 1994 D often display heavy wear across Jefferson's cheek and hair, flattening of Monticello's architectural details, and surface scratches from decades of handling, while well-preserved uncirculated examples retain bright mint luster and sharper detail. From production and mintage standpoint, the 1994 D nickel is anything but scarce. The Denver Mint produced approximately 1.5 billion pieces, making it one of the highest mintage nickels of the 1990s. This enormous output ensured that the coin became a common fixture in American commerce, circulating widely throughout the decade and into the 21st century. Because of its abundance, the 1994D nickel is readily available in circulated condition and generally carries only its face value in such states. However, as with all Jefferson nickels, higher-grade examples are far scarcer. Coins preserved in mint state condition, particularly those graded MS65 and above, attract collector interest. The most significant premium applies to specimens with a full steps designation, awarded when all 6 steps leading up to Monticello on the reverse are fully struck and visible without blending. This level of detail was notoriously difficult to achieve consistently, especially in high mintage years like 1994, making full steps nickels highly prized among specialists. Placing the coin in its historical context, the 1994D nickel represents one of the final decades of Schlag's original reverse design. Just 10 years later, in 2004, the United States Mint began a dramatic redesign of the nickel as part of the Westward Journey series, which honored the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition and Jefferson's role in the Louisiana Purchase. By 2006, Jefferson's portrait itself was reimagined, facing forward for the first time, and Monticello was updated in sharper detail. In this sense, the 1994D nickel belongs to the last uninterrupted stretch of the classic Jefferson nickel design, one that had become deeply familiar to generations of Americans. For those who grew up in the 1980s and 1990s, nickels like the 1994D evoke memories of vending machines, payphones, and everyday pocket change, an object so common that its artistry often went unnoticed. In terms of collectability and value, the 1994D Jefferson nickel is considered common. Circulated coins almost always trade for face value. In uncirculated grades, coins graded MS63 or MS64 are affordable and widely available. At MS65, prices begin to rise slightly, with premiums reflecting both scarcity and collector demand. At the very top of the grading scale, MS67 or higher, the coin becomes significantly rarer and can command meaningful premiums, especially when certified by PCGS or NGC. The greatest rarity lies in full steps examples, which may range from dozens to hundreds of dollars depending on grade and certification. For advanced Jefferson nickel collectors who assemble complete sets by date, mint, and strike quality, the 1994D is essential, both for completeness and for the challenge it presents in locating high-end specimens. Aesthetically, the 1994D nickel carries the understated elegance of Felix Schlag's enduring design.